some really interesting data put out by the Financial Times about the political ideology of millennials. Let's go and put this up on the screen. So, historically, demographic groups have gotten more conservative as they have aged, but millennials are, they say, shattering that oldest rule in politics. And you can see on the right side of the screen these charts that track the political ideology of boomers, silent generation, and Gen X. They all follow that traditional pattern of becoming more conservative as they get older. Millennials, though, are not only are they not following that pattern, they seem to be going in the opposite direction. This is data from both the US and the UK. So it's pretty fascinating. Obviously, we'll have huge implications for politics as silent generation passes on, as boomers continue to age and millennials continue to come into power. There's some indications Gen Z may follow in millennials' footsteps with their political ideology as well. So huge ramifications in terms of political realignments and political power. And Saagar, this is just sort of spitballing, but I have to think coming of age at a time of global financial total collapse, where you have, clear malfeasance on the top of top financial institutions. You have no one going to jail for it. You have, your entire career prospects impacted, your whole life trajectory impacted by this series of events. It seems to me like that might shape your worldview for life.
Oh, I think it's actually easy. It just tracks with wealth. Why do you think boomers became more conservative as they got older? Because they had more money.
They got more money.
Yeah. They had more money. And they're like, actually, I want to pay less taxes. Yeah, mortgage interest deductions and all of that sounds good. Why do you care about that if you don't have any of it? Actually, what you want is really what your parents had. So I don't think it's all that complicated. And in fact, it just shows me that the definitions of conservative, liberal, and all of that, these things don't even really mean anything. What we're going to see is a great reordering in our lifetime. What the Republican Party looks like in 25, 30 years, I think it's just going to have to be completely different if it's going to survive. Very akin to what happened in the 1940s or in the 1930s and 40s under Franklin D. Roosevelt, when basically they had to abandon so much of what they stood for during the pre-Great Depression era. And you had Eisenhower come in and basically declare peace on the New Deal and usher in a completely new party. I think that's very likely to happen. I think on the Democratic side, much of the corporate, kind of alliance and all that stood for under the Bill Clinton era has really been thrown out, especially in the UK, where they've basically thrown that out almost completely with the liberals. And in the Democratic Party for the US, it's still going to take some time. One of the things that I am taking some heart in with this Kevin McCarthy saga is that the parties are weaker now. And that's a really good thing. It's over the last 100 years, there has been no ability to cause chaos and revolt to try and take off the tops of these parties. And something I've come around to is that no matter who gets this speakership, if Kevin McCarthy doesn't get it, that's actually good for American democracy, because they should not have locks on the speakership votes. They should not have locks to be able to have top-down controls. This is something that really evolved more in the Gilded Age and onward. And instead, we need to see a return to some raucous chaos and the ability to inject some new blood into the system. I think that's actually when it's working at its best, as opposed to the way it has been now for the last 40 or 50 years, and especially the last 100 years at the House level.
Yeah, I agree with you. When things are staid and ossified and controlled top down, it becomes very limited, because when it's top down control, you know exactly ultimately who they are going to serve. But yeah, it is fascinating to me. I think you're right on the money. If you want young people to have more conservative politics, maybe cut them in on the deal.
Yeah,
cut them in on the able to create some wealth, and then maybe they'll have a stake in the status quo. Right now they have no stake in the status quo. They're like, fuck the status quo, this is not working for me whatsoever. And that's reflected ultimately in the data. So you see, we covered the Charlie Munger and Bernie Marcus and whatever, all these old guys lamenting these young people not being grateful for what they have, et cetera. But when you look at the numbers, millennials and Gen Z following in their footsteps, they're achieving every major life milestone later than previous generations. And so, yeah, of course, that's going to impact your politics. Of course, that's going to impact your sense of justice, of how the society should ultimately be ordered. And so no one should be surprised to see that it is, in fact, having that impact on their political ideology.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie Munger really should know better. You know, I think I was telling you, I read that biography of Warren Buffett called Snowball, where Munger,
Yeah,
of
I read
course,
that
is
one
a
too.
central character. Well, what's the lesson with Charlie Munger? Him and Warren Buffett got extraordinarily, I'm not saying they didn't work hard, but they also happened to invest during one of the greatest booms in modern American history during the 1960s. Were they responsible for that? Or was broader macro conditions, the world's superpower, Cold War, all of that? See, it just shows you that major economic conditions shape the options that are even available to people. So if you came of age in the 70s as opposed to the 60s, it's a totally different world. And with millennials, we basically had the 70s, except they just never ended. It's like there's no 80s that have come to save us. And so it's not a surprise when you have malaise and really just really or lack of questioning and faith in institutions, which, personally, I don't think you should have faith in those institutions. So I think it's a good thing that people
Yeah.
are rejecting the status quo.
It creates possibility. What happens with that possibility, totally uncertain, could be better, could be worse, who knows, but it at least creates possibility. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.